We invite witnesses because it's very powerful for you to say something, claim something. And somebody like you, doctor, is witnessing that. Half the battle's right there. You are actually stating with your words what is true to you.
Hello, and welcome back to the Push Pause to Heal podcast. On this podcast, we explore health from the inside out, starting with foundations, connection, and the conditions that allow the body to heal. And today's guest is a perfect fit for the show. Dr. Lenka Schulze believes that your first sense, or your intuition, is the most powerful healing tool you possess. Dr. Lenka always knew there was something more than what we could see and touch, but like most people, she was trained out of trusting that knowing. She spent years in academia earning her PhD, learning to honor the rational mind while quietly sensing there was a deeper intelligence at work, one that spoke in whispers, not words. The turning point came when she realized that she wasn't broken for feeling things others couldn't see, for knowing things she couldn't explain. She was simply remembering what she'd always known, that we are more than our physical bodies, that we are spiritual beings with access to profound wisdom if we're willing to listen. That's when she understood her purpose, to help others remember what their souls have known all along, to guide them back from the numbness, back from outsourcing their power, back to the vibrant, grounded person they were always meant to be. Welcome, Dr. Lenka.
Thank you so much, Dr. Emily.
It's a pleasure to have you here. And so much of your introduction just really lands. I think this is going to be a fun conversation. So many of us and so many of the listeners, I think, can resonate with feeling disconnected from our inner wisdom and maybe living in our minds or our intellect. Can you tell us your journey back to your intuition?
Everybody has, like you said, some kind of a story, and I do not want to bore people with, since my childhood, this and that. But if I would just jump over many of the steps and just land right smack in the middle of the mainstream medicine and practice medical intuition alongside of a medical doctor here in Southwest Florida, I was kind of immersed in it after training for it and all that. And then what I have done, I was curious, how in the heck do I do it? And I try to back engineer the process.
Okay.
And I don't know how many intuitive people do that because they're trying to teach intuition, but actually really truly go and back re-engineer it and seeing like, how does this done? I found out that, honestly, it's not that difficult. It's not that hard. All you need to do is to be aware of your own self and know what is yours and what's not.
Ooh.
And that's not easy because we
No.
are clashing energetically constantly. We meshed together, like as a parents, first of all, right? We are meshed with our children, and then the friends comes into it, and then other family members, and then colleagues at work, and then our stories are just mingled and emotions in it. And because it's that realm of the subtle energies. If we would have those kind of glasses to put on and see, we would see them meshed. We will see that I don't end and you begin. We really are meshed together. And so what I mean by that, what's mine and what's yours, is stepping back and anchoring your own self in meditation, in contemplation, and just by sitting and just with yourself
Yes.
and seeing like, is this mine or is it not?
Oh,
And
that's
this
rough.
is where I feel that we are disconnected, where we are so meshed from the early childhood together with everybody else's stuff, and nobody is guiding us towards the responsibility. What is yours? And do not take the responsibility of somebody else's emotions and bringing it on as some kind of like, I have to help because they need help.
Yes.
Sometimes that giving people fishes does not help. Fishing rods are much more helpful.
Yes, yes. Wow.
Mhm.
Wow. Well, that says a lot right there, being aware of your own self. And I think you mentioned we do have to actually push pause. That's the name of my podcast, right? To feel that and to sense what is it? What are we hearing and what is ours versus somebody else and what we've been programmed into. So I like what you said there. I Googled before our conversation, I wanted to see what the internet, how they would define intuition. And intuition was defined as the ability to understand or know something immediately without conscious reasoning, often described as a gut feeling or instinct. And then I looked at your definition, which I like a little bit better, is your direct link to source, the creator to God. Your first sense is the language of your soul, softly guiding your every breath, thought, and choice, yet you've been conditioned to silence it. So that's really, really powerful. And I wonder, can you give us some more understanding of what it feels like? Because we mentioned gut feelings, like how else might somebody know that they've tapped into their intuition?
Gut feeling is the easiest way for us to recognize it because it's a feeling, and the gut could
Hmm.
hurt. You could have a butterflies, like you are nervous.
Hmm.
It could be kind of this nagging feeling. It could because the gut feeling is so recognizable, we can't ignore it, right?
Okay.
But for me, I think the hardest one people cannot recognize, is the knowing. For example, when you just know because you come across like know-it-all.
Mm.
And these children or the people around us who know it all are kind of annoying because they have answers to everything, and lots of it makes no sense. What the heck are you talking about, right? But if we really, like, I love that whole pause
Hmm.
and hold on a second. How does that person know? Like, why is that coming so quickly out of their mouth? Like, they're not even like studied in that field. Then we start pondering, like, there's something to it. And many of us might even have that knowingness, but we do not allow ourselves to just bluntly say it without some kind of science behind it, lab work, and all that, because then we would lose our authority in that
Hmm.
field. But we have to realize that science is nothing more than name branding. Like, they have to put something in some kind of file and then put a name on it, and that file is then labeled with a worthy. But intuition have been here way before this modern science. I believe that the science of the soul, the intuition, has been here way before that, and the academia is now finally catching up with it as they are aligning with even Ayurveda. Ayurveda been here 5,000 years versus the modern medicine only for 200 years. So, of course, there is a value in modern medicine, but there's also a huge value in the wisdom. And I
Yes.
believe that more and more the intuition is guiding us there. And then if we look at Ayurveda and we have that intuitive knowing of, oh, I'm wondering what Ayurveda say about that, I bet you're going to find something there that would back it up. And
Mm.
so there's people now who are in the both fields. They have one foot in academia, and then the real medicine, the magical degree medicine. And then we have the people who are in both ends. So, anyway,
Yeah. No,
hopefully I
I
didn't lose you in this in this
I followed.
explanation.
I feel like it's kind of like we've thrown the baby out with the bathwater. We took all the knowledge and wisdom of the ancient traditions and just said, "Oh, we have science now. We can study this and and if you can't prove it in a study, it has no value." Which has absolutely set us back significantly in terms of health creation, and also I think we've missed out that there is an art to medicine, and that's something that you can't, it's not something you can hold or measure, or that's it's and again, I was thinking about when you said you were talking about how intuition isn't something that is valued as much. A CEO in a boardroom might have an inner knowing and say, "I know it needs to be this way," but without having like all the reasons why they're likely not going to speak up to that, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, so thank you for that. And I think too, we when we get stuck in our intellect and our mind and we forget about this wisdom of our bodies, there's really this reconnection that we need to help us heal. I would love to, you kind of dabbled in it already a little bit, but other thoughts about how we improve our intuition. Obviously, with the first step would be slowing down, right? Listening.
Mhm.
Any specific tools, meditation you mentioned? I don't know if
Yeah, I want to
yoga or.
go. Yeah, I want to go back to that comment that you were
Sure.
saying about intuition, and then we need a proof. I believe that intuition becomes very powerful when it is married to intellect, and this
Mm,
is when the intuition actually gains more momentum. So the gut feeling, for example, to me, is very valuable and instinctual level of intuition, like get out. Doesn't
mhm,
feel right, don't do it. But then we have the almost like the empowering intuition where, I feel that if I go into this venture, it will be expansive for me. Or
mhm,
you could just say, if, and then you have the universal, which you see the intuition kind of like, hold on a second, that organization over there, what they are doing is directly affecting this process over here, and that is also influences the people over here in this group. And then you have that almost like a multidimensional intuition. You can also see it in differently where you have a headache and you can just pop a pill and just be done with it, but you can go, okay, I think this headache has something to do with the fact that I'm stressed out with this particular project. But why am I stressed out with this project? Well, maybe that company is aligned with a project that I don't really feel that is aligned with the truth that I believe morally.
mhm.
And then you see how I'm going into this. So
Yes.
this intuitive senses are now being layered versus gut feeling, get out. You see the
Got it.
difference.
Yes,
So
yes.
when we then step into like intellect and seeing the layers with, oh yeah, that makes sense because this particular company and this particular product and this particular group, and then you put in intellectual understanding in that, then it's gaining more momentum.
That makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of depth and nuance to it besides just a
Yes.
yes or no. Yeah,
Yes, and
excellent.
I love to say this. I have this in front of me, so I don't, say it the wrong way. That everyone knows this quote at this point. The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. And this was said by Albert Einstein. So if he said that, think about that for a second.
Yeah.
Everything he had created was based on intuition first. He first had to
Wow.
had some kind of a idea, thought, vision, and
Yes.
then he had to bring it forward into the humanity. And that's probably took a lot longer than
Yeah.
that intuitive
Right.
spark that
Wow.
he had.
I
But
love that.
nobody asked him about that. They only
Yeah.
wanted to have that, okay, show us what you got.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I see this a lot in working with my clients. I will often ask them, do you have any, what do you think is going on? Like, what's your underlying like root cause to this? If you had to guess, or even about a supplement or a medication, how do you feel about that? Do you think it's good for you? And a lot of times they know the answer
Yeah.
and it's like they hand it to me and now we just are off to the races and we can get
Yes.
healing. Yeah. So as if somebody who's listening maybe is kind of suffering from some health condition, chronic fatigue or something along those lines, how can you give us some very specific steps that they could utilize to maybe go in and listen to what their body is trying to tell them through their intuition?
I'm going to throw it back in your court because you said something so valuable and I wrote it down so I don't forget to bring it back. When you asked your patient, what do you think or what do you feel is the issue? And they respond. You know what you had created? You created a witness. So they actually, the first step will be when you have someone who can hold the information for you, and you can hear yourself saying that, then somebody's witnessing. This is very powerful. That's why we need witnesses in a major events. Like you have weddings and baptism
Mm-hmm.
and things like that, and we invite people. We invite
Sure.
witnesses because it's very powerful for you to say something, claim something, and somebody like you, doctor, is witnessing that. Half the battle's right there. You are actually stating with your words what is true to you. And then the doctor is validating you. See, this is so powerful. First, I think, first step is that to take the guts and say it. A lot of times
Yeah.
people are so disconnected from even saying that. So if you can get someone to that level, lots of it is done right there. And then being your own detective, your health detective.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you are very good of going to the biology of it and the science of it, but kind of getting to the root cause, not just physically, but emotionally. What got you there in the first place? Because I have been told by my mentor, Dr. Noam Shealy, that we are born 98% of the time absolutely perfect. So what happens? What happens? And that is the detective work.
Yes. I love that.
Yes. And so within the first week, and then the month, and then the years, and the decades. So it is like back to the onion when we go back into that sacred self that we were born perfect. And we may not take the last breath perfect in our opinions, but peeling the onion layers is part of the journey. Um, and not judging that and taking every single pain and discomfort as a signal that the body is speaking to you, that something is off, nothing more, nothing less. And it is a divine mechanism, is divine tool, your body is. And when we trying to shut it off with medications and substances, we are not doing really good job of healing ourselves. We are just numbing ourselves. And I'd also like to see the perspective from other parts of the world. So if you go to the eastern part of the healing and you land an other continent, and you would see the healers with your conditions here today, you would land somewhere else. They wouldn't be asking you what the doctor name your issues,
Right.
like the diagnosis. They would not be interested. They wouldn't even know what to do with it. But they just kind of go look at it and like, okay, we'll put you back in the zone. We could put you back in the balance. It's all about bringing the body back in the balance. And when we look at that as a much simpler way of handling your crisis, going back into the balance. And yes, there are many tools. There are herbs, there are um, different modalities, acupuncture, massages,
Right.
different testings, and medicine might help sometimes in a certain time of our life. I'm not discounting any of that, but looking at it as a tools, not a absolutely answer.
I love that. And I just want to circle back because I love the idea or the concept of your body's just talking to you. It's just information. And a lot of times we give it an emotion, or we put anger into it, oh, I have this headache again, and now suddenly you're like pissed off at your body.
Yeah.
And that's not a good place to be, right? It's really just trying to get your attention. So yes, I love that. There's so much wisdom if we can listen.
I actually, as you saying that, I
Yeah.
actually love the work of Dr. David Hawkins, and I use his consciousness map as a map for healing. And when you were saying you are mad at your body because it has a headache, because you have 20 pounds extra, because you have heartburn, you're doing nothing more than judgment. You judge it, right?
Right.
So when you look at the map of consciousness on Dr. Hawkins' website or books,
Mm-hmm.
he will see where judgment is, what is relate to, and then you also see where healing is possible. And they are so far from each other.
Yeah.
So if you
Yeah.
are in judgment and you're trying to get healing, you will see it like it's really clear to your eyes and your senses, like, oh my gosh, yeah, I am so off. And then you can go, okay, so where do I go from judgment? Oh, maybe I'll go to anger because I'm going to be really mad. And then from that mad, I'll just, take it to neutrality. It is whatever it is.
Acceptance. Yes.
Yes, and then you will see where the healing is. I find that one of the best tools for people who are very intellectual, needs to see the graphs
Hmm.
to guide you in every situation, actually.
I love that. Yes. Yes. Because there is a measurable energy to every emotion, is
Mm-hmm.
what you're referring to,
Yes.
correct? Right? We can measure that just like an EKG can measure
Mhm.
what's going on with your heart, or an EEG of the brain. We measure all these frequencies. We
Mhm.
can measure the frequency of an emotion. And so climbing the ladder just to the next best emotion can really get us moving in the right direction. Thank you for bringing that up, because I
Yes.
do love that concept.
And if people really follow Dr. David Hawkins' books, what I love about this remarkable man, that he actually healed himself from all of the things that people struggle today. The last thing he healed was his vision. He had really thick glasses. And somebody said to him, well, if you healed everything, why don't you just heal your eyes? And he goes, good point. So he got on it and he got away from glasses as well. So he is definitely one of those people that walk the walk and talk the talk.
Yes, yes, and it's very inspiring to read
Mhm.
too. Yeah, excellent. So I think I'd love to just circle back to the concept briefly about, if you are feeling something, if something doesn't feel right about your health, or if another avenue feels better to you, that's something to kind of lean into
Mhm.
and not just shut down,
Mhm.
right? There's some guidance and some wisdom there. One of the things I have found to be helpful personally, but also I'll suggest to my clients, is to journal. Like, maybe you don't have a safe witness, or you feel uncomfortable speaking this thing that you're feeling or noticing out loud to somebody else, to put it in a journal. Do you feel like that's as beneficial or
Oh,
helpful?
not just beneficial. It's a must. I have to say that there's actually studies done. I feel really bad not remembering this author. I do remember she's a medical doctor or psychiatrist, lives in Colorado Boulder, I believe, and she wrote in her book that one of the patients was on stage 4 cancer, and they gave him kind of like, just close your affairs.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, he got home and started journaling and pretty much wrote down all the things that he was mad about with all the people who did him wrong. And guess what? He didn't die. He got
Wow.
into remission just by that. And so I thought about that, like, how does this actually work? So what happened is the energy that had been stuck inside, right, had an outlet. And the outlet went from the ether, from the thoughts, into your hand, into paper, and then it gave a physical third dimension, like actually manifestation. So all the issues are now in this particular writing, and then it is separate away from you, and it's up to you what you're going to do with it. You can clinch to it, like, oh, this, I'm going to be like, this is my truth today and I'm going to hold on to it, or like, I'm done with this. It's in there, I'm done. It has nothing to do with me, I close my affairs. So powerful.
I love that. I just got chills when you were talking about that. Yeah, I
Mhm.
think we don't realize, and I bring this up a lot with my clients too, is that emotions are energy in motion. It's energy
Mhm.
that wants to move, but if we leave it in there, if it's stuck in our body and it's not moving, it's going to start to change our cells and how they respond, and eventually can lead to chronic illness or disease. So writing and putting it down on paper, talking to a counselor or a friend or whatever, those are ways to get the emotions out. Maybe it's exercise, or maybe you punch a pillow and scream, or, like, we have to let all of that out. And I think in our society, in our culture, we're not supposed to share. we're not supposed to be loud or well, it's not as accepted in society, it seems today, to express ourselves fully or let those things out. It's all about numbing and going about your day.
I would agree with that, but just talking doesn't do anything without full responsibility for whatever you had created. I am strong believer into you create your reality. And when you look around, this is your creation. And every single day you have a choice to change it, move out of it, stay, adjust. But you can go to therapy, keep talking, blaming everything and everyone for your circumstances and thinking that situation or your health will change. No, there has to be accountability in that as well.
Yes, that's a good point. We have to have some agency to make change. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thought I wanted to ask you about, so many of my clients, myself included, and I would imagine it is you are empaths. We like feel everything, right? All the emotions in the room and the people around us. And as empaths, is there a closer, are we more in tune with our intuition, or do you have any thoughts around that concept?
My theory on empathetic nature is that every single one of us are born empaths. Every single one of us. That is the part of that first sense, because empathy is nothing more than feeling. And it's feeling specifically towards another feelings, to other human beings, the feelings around us, the feelings of nature, feelings of the animals, the rocks, the sunshine, so on and so forth. That is our birthright. And that is so closely connected to the source, because these subtle energies are not felt by intellect. Somebody can tell you what it is, and you can take it like, yeah, okay, I guess this crystal feels good, but you just take it as somebody else's information. But if we have been born with that sense and we also nourish it and passed it on from generation to generation, it becomes much more potent. And we become I feel we also become clearer of what is ours and what's not. And we can choose to feel and then be empathetic and then sympathetic and then just go back, kind of like we can understand it. But again, because we have not been taught or we have not had the examples in our family towards that sense whatsoever, it is shut down first. Like so many people just shut it down. They just become numb because the feeling can be very overwhelming.
Scary.
Yeah. And some people take the empathy into survival mechanism. It's kind of like road signs. They just walk in their life and see how it feels. Yep, okay, I can enter. Yep, okay, I can smile. Yes, I can converse. And so that's not healthy either.
No, and I think I love the point about what is yours and what is mine, because as an empath, that's something I've had to learn, to not just take everyone else's load and carry it for them, which is can very much feel like our responsibility if we're feeling those big emotions. So thank you for explaining that.
And also we have been taught that somehow it is helpful to others, and it isn't, because if we take in somebody else's load, we step into their karma. And even children, we have to be very careful, right? There's a time where you help your children because they're little and they are innocent and they don't know. But once they are into the adulthood, we have to allow them to make mistakes. We can let them know what's out there if they're going to choose that choice, but we have to allow the choices. We have to allow them to suffer, because suffering is also the greatest teacher in times, as Buddha said. At least the Buddhist teachings state.
Sure. Yeah.
But of course, there's a just very fine line of where is our empathy helpful and where it's not.
Yeah, that's good. It's a good point of discernment. Well, I wonder if, this because my podcast is called Push Pause to Heal, and I'm on a mission to help normalize rest and tuning in for women, I'd love to ask, what's your favorite way to push pause in a busy world? I know you have children, you have a business, there's a lot going on. Is there, how does Lenka slow down and take care of herself?
I believe in rituals, and not necessarily sticking to them like rigidly,
Hmm.
but understanding the balance. I feel that if we are 100% living in a human life as a human beings, we are not in balance. We have to understand we are also spiritual beings. And keeping that in balance is the key to the sustainable health. And for me, I like to spend time in the morning with my favorite books. I call it the coffee with God.
I love
And
it.
yes, and this is where I kind of center myself in and plan my day, and
Hmm.
then the same way I end my day. And so, and during the time, if I have time, I'll just take 2, 3 minutes and just look outside, look at the birds,
Yeah.
look at the trees, step outside, feel the sun. Sometimes that's all you need to kind of recalibrate,
Yes.
like you said, pause
Yeah.
and recalibrate.
Bring us back to balance and that homeostasis. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's beautiful. I love coffee with God. I
Mhm.
can't imagine that your day could go better than if you had started it with having coffee with God. So that's perfect. I love that. I love that so much. So, if our listeners are interested in hearing more about intuition, learning more from you, what's the best way? I know you do have your book. It's called Intuition: Listening to Your Inner Voice. Is that where you would direct them, or social media, or where should we follow? You have your
That is
podcast too.
that is one of my books. That's my second book. My first book, Journey of You, is actually the journey of that path of my childhood, and
Mm,
how I got into the business of medical intuition, and how healing looks like from that
mm,
standpoint of view. And the
yeah.
second one was kind of following on that, and it was more into the intuition. And it's really simple. You can find me on lenka.org. Make it really simple for people, and everything is
Okay.
there.
Excellent. lenka.org. I have to go check it out. I think you could never go wrong by learning to listen better to your own wisdom. And so that's a great way to end. I think if today's podcast resonated with you, if you are feeling a bit more called to tune in and listen to your body's wisdom to allow for healing, please help us spread the word and subscribe to this podcast and share this episode with a friend or loved one. Dr. Lenka and I are on a mission to bring more connection and healing to this world. So, will you join us and please share this podcast? And thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Dr. Lenka, for joining us.
Thank you, Dr. Emily, for having me.